Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist, and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and full-time fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we cover in detail Part 4 in our series entitled The 4 Ds That Can Wreck Your Retirement, let me introduce two young lads who produce this show each week to keep it from becoming a train wreck, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, as we record this show in September of 2024, according to the folks that keep up with this stuff, apparently, overall U.S. household debt increased by 4.8% from November to November of 2023, with credit card debt as the highest increase at over 16%. Now, this means that most red-blooded Americans are now carrying more debt in 2024 than ever before. Well, why is this? Well, there are a ton of factors reported to be causing this increase in consumer debt, but in my humble opinion, when you boil it all down, we Americans got a little fat and sassy over the past few years with all of this free time and free money being tossed our way. And as enjoying all this cheap money with these historically low interest rates to borrow things we probably didn't need, it's created a problem. In other words, being able to borrow cheap money allowed us to get used to spending more money than ever before. And as we humans tend to be with these spending habits, that's right, folks, as the old saying goes, these habits are hard to break. Or as the famous saying says, a luxury once enjoyed soon becomes a necessity. And now that the government handouts have ceased and so have those cheap interest rates, and according to this article from Forbes, Americans are racking up more debt to maintain their lifestyles in an environment of inflation, the likes of which inflation we've never seen. So with inflation running rampant and the cost of trying to put food on the table and keep gas in the car, which is a bare necessity, the inclination to use that plastic credit card is getting more and more real to many Americans who cannot afford to live. In fact, to prove this point, I'm personally witnessing a lot of my clients and prospective clients who are telling me that their adult children are moving back home, not because they want to, but because they have to. You see, many of these adult children cannot afford to live on their own, and speaking of debt, many are saddled with student loans that are becoming hard to pay back. According to Experian, Gen Z and millennials' debt has increased by 15% and 8% respectively. Now that's a lot of debt increase.
No, really?
But since this show is geared towards retirees, I'm not only going to share some ideas on how you might be able to help loved ones tackle their debt, but just as importantly, I'll be covering the issues of your own debt in retirement and how this debt can wreck your retirement. So stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back.
Our Better Business Bureau Spotlight today comes to us from Dana. We have been with Tony Walker Financial for over 16 years, and they have helped us with many questions and situations that have occurred in those 16 years. We could not have asked for any better service than we have received from Tony and staff. For more information, visit TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255.
Our client spotlight today shines brightly on Mike and Dawn Bierman. First of all, Biermans, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I moved down here 2 years ago from outside Chicagoland area. Worked 37 years with Borg Warner Automotive.
I was a career RN. I worked 38 years as a nurse.
So basically, what prompted you to contact Tony Walker Financial and inevitably end up working with us?
Well, we were approaching 59 and a half, and we just really wanted to see where we stood and what our options were as far as our future.
And now that you're officially retired, actually you've picked up a part-time gig. Tell the audience what you're doing right now.
Yeah, we're doing school jobs, so we really enjoy it a lot. Only working
36 weeks a year.
there. Yeah.
We're off at 2:30 every day. It's 16 weeks vacation. It's just a perfect setup for us.
And of course, since you haven't reached age 65, this new gig has really helped with the health insurance.
Absolutely.
And what have you enjoyed most about working with Tony Walker Financial?
From the minute we walked in the door, we felt comfortable. The options were laid out clear to us. It was explained thoroughly. We couldn't have asked for anything more.
Any thoughts, Mr. Bierman? And also a little bit about the game plan we provided you. Did that help in making your decision to formally retire and kind of, as you say, begin this new chapter?
Well, yes, definitely. Just how you had everything laid out and well organized. It was a game changer coming here.
Well, Biermans, thank you so much for working with Tony Walker Financial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Today's Tony in the Trenches comes to us from Dave in Bardstown. Tony, I've been a big fan of yours for years, watching your TV show and your radio show, but noticed lately that you're having more and more of your staff and other fiduciaries on the show. Are you thinking of retiring or what?
This is a great observation by Dave's part, but before I answer that question, I forgot to do this. I want to send a shout out to Nancy, who lives over in Frankfort, Kentucky, who watches this show religiously, who actually I found out about Nancy. It wasn't her that came to see me, her adult daughter that came to see me. So again, Nancy, thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you to all of you who watch this show on a regular basis, which leads to this Tony in the Trenches. A gentleman who decided to do business with us recently watches this show religiously as well, and he made this comment about noticing that I'm including more and more of the staff at Tony Walker Financial in these TV programs. And he was in the other day and he kind of looked at me and he went, "Tony, are you getting ready to retire?" And I think that was the whole point. He thought that the reason I was bringing on more and more people into the fray of the show was because I'm getting ready to chill out and move out of here. And that is not the case at all. Folks, as we record this show in 2024, I just hit my 40th year in the business, probably having more fun than I've ever had. I have all of this great staff. I have no plans to retire. And I think the reason I'm doing all this, I want everyone to know how much the staff mean to me and our clients. I couldn't do all that I did without 19 full-time staff at Tony Walker Financial. And on top of that, we have Aaron and Derek in the production company. So yeah, I've got a total of 21 employees. And yeah, I'm going to show them off and boast about them because that's what really makes Tony Walker Financial. It's just not me on this TV show. I want people to know what a great staff we have. So Dave, I appreciate your comments very much. All right, let's get back to this. We're covering the fourth D, which is debt. And we're getting into this whole topic of things you need to be aware of in retirement and what can be a problem in terms of debt. Now, you got to keep in mind, back in Granddad's day, the only debt most savers had was maybe a little mortgage on their home, or they might have something called layaway, which technically was not debt. You couldn't even walk out with the merchandise until it was officially paid for. Now, my granddad did have an account at a little store in Troy, the Troy General Store, and it hovered around $10 a month. But other than that, he had paid off his home. He had no debt. But that was yesterday, and now it's today. And as I covered years ago in my documentary, Say Goodbye to Granddad's Retirement, today's retirees are faced with a whole different financial environment than my granddad had to deal with. So let's look at how debt can wreck your retirement. And we just chose 6 of the issues I see time and time again for my saver clients. So let's take a look at these 6 items. So first of all, the first item we're going to cover is literally the overall impact of retirement. You see, retirement, as I've said time and time again, it's all about cash flow. Money coming in the front door and money going out the back door. So think about this. When you get in retirement, you don't want a lot of uncertainty. You want to know exactly how much money you need to spend on a regular basis. That's because it's expensive in retirement, not just with inflation, but taking money out of these tax-infested retirement accounts. So if we have debt, that means we're going to have to take even more money out every month, pay the tax, just to service the debt. So overall debt, especially if you have a lot of money in a 401k or IRA, is very costly to service. Number two, tax implications of debt repayment. Now, for instance, this has at least once a week. Someone will came in yesterday, a couple. They're already retired. They have these large 401ks, but they also do not want a house payment. In fact, they said their interest on their home's about 7%. And he said, yeah, we can afford to pay this on a monthly basis, but we don't want it. So he entered through a buyout through a local company. So he wanted to start drawing a large sum out this year to pay off the home. I said, this year would be a terrible year. You're going to be in a 22% bracket. Let's wait till next year. So our team of tax certified specialists will look at that. We'll make sure he pays off that home, but we want to make sure he pays it off at the least amount of taxes. This is a free service we offer all of our clients, things like this. Good versus bad debt. Folks, debt is not necessarily evil. There's what I call good debt. That would be like debt on your home, assuming the interest rate is, something that's realistic. Sometimes certain use assets, we tell people to borrow money for cars all the time if it makes sense from a tax standpoint. They're usually assets that what we say you get use out of, or hopefully they're appreciating in value. Bad debt, the obvious choice would be a credit card. You rack up a bunch of credit card debt, buying clothes or trips or whatever. That asset now theoretically gone, and you're stuck with debt and interest, especially that interest is sky high, not good. Next, strategies to reduce debt. We are very well versed in retirement planning, folks. Retirement planning is more than just slapping your money in an annuity or running to a dinner seminar and buying stuff. I mean, folks, that's not retirement planning. That's just purchasing products and hoping for the best. A retirement planning specialist is trained in cash flow, debt service, how to keep from running out of money, which assets to pull from, which to not. And this is a huge issue, is what is the strategy going to be if you want to pay off debt, how to pay off that debt with the least amount of taxes and not affect your overall lifestyle. Next, we have the role of emergency funds. Folks, you've got to start building up savings in after-tax accounts. Again, many of you are coming to me, you're retired or nearing retirement, you got $5,000 or $10,000 in the bank, and you got a $500,000 401k that hasn't been taxed yet. This is not good. You are not tax diversified. So some of you need to back off those 401k contributions and get those savings built up. Now, don't run off and do this without talking to us. But this is what we're going to look at. We're preparing you for retirement, but we need more after-tax savings to deal with the things you're going to come up with. And finally, the effects of liquidating 401ks to pay off debt. This is a huge decision, and with taxes expiring at the end of 2025, I would encourage a lot of you, if you're thinking about paying off or taking large sums out of those tax-infested retirement accounts to pay off debt now, you need to consider doing it now, because my concern is after the laws expire in 2025, we don't know what they're going to do, but down the road, if these tax rates keep going up, then you decide to pull money out of these tax-infested accounts, the government could hammer you with huge amounts of taxes. So I hope this has been helpful. So here's the moral to the story. If you have debt in retirement, or you're nearing retirement with debt, and you're trying to figure out how to pay it off, should you pay it off? If so, where are you going to drag that money out to pay it off? We need to talk. My name's Tony Walker. I've done this for 40 years. We know what we're doing at Tony Walker Financial. We are retirement planning specialists. Love to talk to you at no cost or obligation. So to take advantage of that free phone call, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started button, and we will arrange a free phone call with myself to discuss your situation. If after that phone call we think we're going to be of help, I'm going to meet with you in person. That's right, free of charge, no obligation. We can do that at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Internet not your thing? No problem. You can call us 24/7 at the toll-free number of 877-499-9255. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Welcome, sports fans, to one of the most anticipated new events in these 40th Olympics. I'm Bill Swanson, along with commentator Jim Swanson. No relation, of course. So, Jim, the Olympics has some great events, but I think we can all agree that the most watched event is the synchronized swimming.
For sure, Bill. For me personally, it is the highlight of the Olympics.
That's right. And with the inclusion of more and more new events at this year's Olympics, the most anticipated new event is the Granddad-Granddaughter Synchronized Swimming Competition.
That's right, Bill. After years of studying details of synchronized swimming, local financial advisor Tony Walker decided to compete for gold alongside with his aquatically gifted granddaughter, Scout. These two are a dynamic duo, ready to test their waters against their rivals from Bulgaria and Mesopotamia.
Well, Jim, at least we know that each team will medal, that's for sure. So, Jim, let's get right to it with our first performance by Team USA. As you can see, Jim, a huge crowd on hand to watch the first ever Olympic event.
Just look at the enthusiasm as the crowd is anxious to see Tony and Scout perform.
Well, Team USA begins with a difficult move right out of the gate, a spin around floppy floop.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Followed by a bunny hop.
That's impressive.
Oh my, look at the height of that flying Nancy. Nice maneuver, followed by that patented move in synchronized swimming, the donkey kick.
Just look at the grace exhibited by these two. Magnificent.
This team really does have great form, don't they?
Oh my goodness. Tony just pulled off a fling zing. That was amazing.
Wait a minute. Tony is going to try to pull off the skydiver move.
Perfect. And they finish with a beautiful array of synchronized splashes and then cap off the performance with one more flying Nancy. And the crowd goes wild at that magnificent performance.
Well, except for that guy. Yeah, I can relate.
What do you mean by that, Bill?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. I am completely checked out. Oh, but hey, look, I got a new high score.
Very nice. All right, folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you in 4 years.
With the current low income tax rates expiring at the end of 2025, many folks want to know if something called a Roth conversion might make sense. Now, Roth conversion is simply this. You elect to pay the taxes now on a tax-infested IRA, and thus the IRA now becomes a Roth, and therefore, moving forward, you never pay taxes on that money again or the growth of the assets. But what if you are already the age of 73 and under what's called the required minimum distribution rules? Can you still do a Roth conversion? Well, the answer is sort of. So let's walk over to the whiteboard and take a look at this. And again, so this is RMD, and I'm going to put here Roth conversion. And we're going to use an example. John Doe has $500,000 in a tax-infested IRA. His RMD, let's say he's already 73, is roughly $20,000, okay? So he has to take $20,000 out and pay the taxes. So he might say, well, I don't want to pay taxes on that, and I don't even need the money. Can I do a Roth conversion of $20,000 and wipe this out? And the answer is no. You can do a Roth conversion, but if you do a Roth conversion, you still have to account for the $20,000. Let me give you an example. So let's say he says, well, I want to do a Roth conversion of $50,000. That's fine, but you're going to have to add that to it. In other words, he's going to have to take a total distribution from his IRA, pay taxes on the $70,000, but then he could take the $50,000 and do a Roth conversion. And you might say, well, wait a minute, Tony, why would you want to do all of this? This sounds crazy. Well, if you think like I do that taxes in the future will go up, you need to strongly at least consider a Roth conversion. And here's the thing. If you are that person that says, I really don't need the RMD, if you know this tax-infested IRA is just going to get taxed at higher rates one day, what you could do in your mind, this is the way I try to make things as logical as possible, is let's say the tax on this, let's say you're in a 20% bracket now, you're going to owe $4,000 in taxes, so you still have $16,000. So back to the 20% here, you're going to owe $10,000 in taxes here. Are you with me? On the 20% of the 50. Well, you still have $16,000 left over from the RMD that you didn't need anyway. You could throw that bone to the government, and now that $50,000 that you converted to a Roth will be tax-free forever for you, and when you die, no taxes to the kids. So that sounds like you. If you're trying to weigh the advantages of whether to do a Roth, even though you might be in RMD age territory, we need to talk. My name is Tony Walker, and at Tony Walker Financial, we are well equipped with our retirement planning specialist to help you weigh the issues of these potential tax savings. To learn more about our services, why don't you log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back.
So, Gina, I'm up, visiting the Louisville office. I don't get to come up here very often, so it's pretty busy around here.
Yes, it's normally very busy around here, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays when Tony's here. We stick to a very strict schedule. We stay very organized, but we always have lots of drop-ins and people stopping by, and that's great. I think that's one thing that Tony's always taken pride in is us having great customer service. We try and anticipate our clients' needs ahead of time, and they know that they can stop by here, they can ask a quick question, they can call, and we're always here for them, which in today's society, not very many people offer very good customer service. So I think we stand out because we take pride in that. So I think it's a great thing.
We're not the 800 number.
We are definitely not the 1-800 number, and we're always here for them. And I think now that people can do reviews for financial companies, I think it's nice to see, people being able to share with their friends and people, what good service we provide and that we're there for them, and it makes them feel at ease. We try and make people feel comfortable with their finances when a lot of people feel stupid about them and unsure what to ask, and we try and kind of take that pressure off of them and explain it in terms they can understand, which is not easy.
Well, and, you're kind of the unsung hero of, I think, the Louisville office. Not only do you do all the media buying and really kind of head up all of our advertising, but you're kind of the face of the Louisville office as well. I mean, they're the first person you meet. Yes.
That's me.
But thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you. I enjoy my job. I love doing it. I've been here almost 10 years in September, so it's fun. It's fun to see how things have grown and changed. It's been fun to help do the branding and the marketing for Tony Walker, and so many people come in and, I've seen your commercials for years and watched your TV show, and we're now trying to make a decision, and you just feel like the right fit. So that always makes me feel good about things.
It's very rewarding, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for having me in today.
Welcome to Louisville. Come back anytime.
Thanks.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker, and I hope you've enjoyed this series of the 4 Ds that can wreck your retirement. And as we conclude this series, I've got to talk about one of my favorite characters in the Bible, a gentleman by the name of King Solomon, who was reported to be the wealthiest man who ever lived. Now, a word used in the Bible that has always resonated with me that King Solomon talked about was this word, vanity, particularly when used by the richest man that ever walked the face of the earth. And I think he summed up rightly this idea of stockpiling money only, in his case, and in many cases of savers I meet, to realize that he couldn't take this stuff with him and would one day, here's the point, folks, have to leave it to somebody who could potentially blow it all. In other words, whether you have a little or a lot, in the end, I would agree with King Solomon, it's all vanity. Or as I like to say, none of this is real. This notion of acquiring and enjoying things is particularly interesting when you consider how much debt we Americans rack up in the process, a practice of basically spending money we sometimes don't have and then paying interest to the one we borrow it from. Of course, we do this, hopefully, to enjoy more of our money, but still, it can be a problem. You see, the problem with debt is it adds to the vanity and fails to address the biggest issue of them all. Why would we ever borrow money and pay interest to someone else knowing it will cost us dearly, unless, of course, the thing we borrow money for does in fact somehow save us money in the process, increase our net worth, maybe give us an asset that we really do need to borrow money for, such as a car, but only sometimes borrowing can help us in that area. But even if it can help us, even if borrowing money from others can create more assets for us in the future, I've discovered, like Solomon, if all we're doing is accumulating more and more stuff with no plans on how we're going to spend it before we die, then we prove once again that it's all vanity. Jesus warned of this practice of stockpiling money for the future. We're in Luke chapter 12, verses 17 through 19, He shares the vanity of creating more wealth with no plans to spend it and what ensues in the process. There's a guy, apparently, who has more stuff than he knows what to do with, and instead of getting rid of this stuff, what does he do? Well, he builds bigger barns to store it in. Can anyone say stockpiling money in your 401k plan with no plans to use it? And yes, that 401k plan, folks, is a debt. You may not believe me, but it's called taxes. Now, the result, before he can use his money back to the guy building the bigger barns, guess what? He dies. Game over, and thus another example of vanity, or as I like to remind people, none of this is real. But Tony, you say, I don't have any debt. I'm retired. I'm debt-free. Is this message really for me? Well, friend, again, assuming you do have a 401k, IRA, TSP, 403b, or some other tax-infested retirement savings plan, yes, this message is for you because whether you want to acknowledge it or not, you're in debt. Maybe not to a bank, but you are in debt to Uncle Sam. Do this. Call up your broker or your 401 custodian and test the waters on this. Tell them to liquidate entirely your 401k and just send you a check. Then watch how much of this money is really yours. What you'll find is all that money you thought you had in your 401k, nope, part of that is Uncle Sam's. It's the taxes you're going to owe on it. And worse yet, if you die with this tax-infested 401k, the taxes get passed off to your kids, proving again that none of this is real. So what is King Solomon and Jesus Christ reminding us of here? We are all in debt in some form or fashion. None of this money is 100% ours because in the end, we or our kids are more than likely going to be saddled with debt, which is more reason to view this money for what it truly is, nothing real but simply a commodity created by man, which can allow us to use and enjoy our money before it's too late. The sooner we go about enjoying the fruits of our labor, the more we're going to worry less about money. And that's some good news. And it's really good news if you practice what I'm preaching here, news you and I can take to the bank. Amen? Well, speaking of my concept of none of this is real, I've got something for real that you can take advantage of right now. That's spending 10 minutes with me on the phone to see if we can help you be more worry-free in retirement. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how easy it is to find out more about our services and to see if we can be of help to you. Log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And when you get there, just click on that Let's Get Started button, and we will arrange that phone call. If it looks like we can be of help, I'm going to meet with you in person. That's right, the owner of the company, to talk to you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Internet not your thing? No biggie. Just call 877-499-9255. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this series on the 4 biggest D's that can wreck your retirement. Here's what I would say to that. If you're retired or retiring soon, give us an opportunity to talk. We would love to see if we can help you be worry-free in retirement. But you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.